Joel Klatt hanging out with us. We bring him in now. He's at Joel Klatt on Twitter. He called the USC-Arizona State game from the Coliseum this weekend. Joel hanging out with us. Let's dive back into some college football talk. Nebraska, winless. Penn State, winless. Michigan, 1-2. What in the world is going on with the traditional heavyweights in the Big Ten? And I'm giving Nebraska credit here for being a traditional heavyweight. They haven't really been one in the Big Ten. But I still think it's kind of a surprise if I had told you coming into this season, hey, guess what? Nebraska, Penn State, and Michigan are going to try to do live math here, are going to start off the season, a combined, I guess, what would it be, 1-7? Like, you would have been like, oh, my God, that sounds pretty crazy. Who's in better shape there? Who can actually step to Ohio State, if anyone, in the Big Ten?
I just wish that we could go back to, 1994 and tell people that, hey, by the way, I'm from the future, and Penn State, Michigan, and Nebraska are combined 1-7.
Yeah.
People would be like, get out of here. They were the preeminent programs, right? Kerry Collins was in 94 undefeated, I believe. That was your 95,
that's right.
One of the two.
Yep.
Kajana Carter, the LeVar Arrington years at Penn State. You obviously had the shared national title between Michigan and Nebraska in 97. Nebraska's 94 team, arguably, Clay, the greatest college football team in history. That was the team that absolutely decimated Florida in the Fiesta Bowl.
I think it was. I think that was Nebraska 96. That was Tommy Frazier.
Because they won it.
They won it
96.
They won it 96.
95. Okay.
96, so 97, I think.
Nebraska team. Anyways,
we'll look it up. Tommy Frazier. They scored 62. They scored 62 on Florida, if I'm not mistaken. I feel like it was. But yeah, whichever one of those teams it was, they won. I thought they won in 97 a half of a title against Michigan, and
that's right.
Yeah, and then 98 Tennessee won, and then 99 Florida State came back and won. I'm doing this all off the top of my head, so I could be wrong. But it's
right.
unbelievable,
but
right?
I'm telling you, you go back to that era and you tell people that these programs are going to be where they're at, and they would laugh you out of the building.
That's right.
And it is. And by the way, outside of Nebraska, Michigan was ranked in the top 20 to start the year. Penn State was ranked in the top 10 to start the year. The top 10. Just disastrous. I actually jotted down a few different teams that you could say over the course of the last decade have just been ridiculously disappointing. And Penn State fans will kill me for this because, yes, Penn State fans, I get it. You won the Big Ten. And by the way, I stood on stage with James Franklin that night and argued like a WWE superstar that you should have gone to the playoffs,
yeah.
Right? Like I was there, right? I'm old enough to know I was actually standing right there. So forgive me for throwing a decade of futility at you because it hasn't been that way. But if you actually look at the last decade, think of what's gone on, and maybe let's say even the last 5 years, Clay, Florida State, USC, Texas, Michigan, Penn State.
Tennessee.
Think of these brands, Tennessee, they've been down and out and just not a factor. And maybe, Michigan fans will be all over me because they were one win away or maybe a bad spot away from playing for a Big Ten title. But I say this to tell you, I don't know the direction that these places go, in particular Michigan and Penn State. I think that you're looking around, if you're a Nittany Lion or if you're a Wolverine, and you're thinking to yourself, oh, my God, what are we doing? Where are we going? Who's driving the bus? Is it going in the right direction?
Yeah.
I think if you're a Nebraska fan, Clay, you can at least say this was a giant rebuild for Scott Frost, maybe bigger than he even realized. And even though we're 0-2 this year, we still feel like it's pointed in the right direction. They've had to, kick a lot of kids off the team. They had a lot of transfer type of stuff happening, and they're to a point. I did one of their games. I did the Ohio State game. But, I still think Nebraska is on the right track to become more competitive within the Big Ten West. I don't know if they'll be a power ever anymore, but they're going to be more competitive in the Big Ten West in about a year, maybe a year and a half. I fully believe that. But if you're Michigan or Penn State right now, there's some serious soul searching going on about, do we have the right guy? And I think that, think about it, Clay. I mean, we could see some major movement at those places.
By the way, 1995 Nebraska, 1997 Nebraska. 95, you were right, was Tommy Frazier. I was right. They scored 62 on Florida. 96, Florida came back and won the title. I think that was the rematch against FSU, if you remember
right.
that game. And then Tennessee won in 98, and Florida State won it again in 99. Joel Klatt, we will talk to you again next week. What game you got this weekend?
We've got USC again, so we're going to do USC Arizona.
Nice. Well, I'll be watching. Thanks for getting up early with us. We'll talk to you again next week.